When you pull away, something shifts in the dynamic between you and him. Suddenly, the certainty he once had begins to crack, and uncertainty seeps in. It's human nature to take things for granted when they feel secure, but the moment that security is threatened, the mind starts to panic. A man who once assumed you would always be there is now left questioning whether that's still true. Right? This creates a powerful reaction in his thoughts and emotions, forcing him to reconsider everything he once believed about your connection. At first, he may not even notice. He might think you're just busy or assume you'll come back like before. But as time passes and your absence stretches further, something deep inside him begins to stir. He starts to wonder why you haven't reached out. His ego, which once made him feel invincible, now begins to whisper doubts. Did he say something wrong? Did he misread the situation? Has he lost the upper hand? This internal dialogue becomes relentless because the human brain naturally craves closure. And when you pull away, you deny him that closure. Instead of moving on easily, he becomes fixated on you, trying to figure out what changed. The more he wonders, the more he realizes that he has no control over the situation. This lack of control is what truly begins to drive him crazy. Men are wired to pursue, to chase what they desire. But when the object of that desire suddenly pulls away, it triggers a primal response. He now feels the urge to regain what he perceives as slipping away. This isn't just about romance. It's psychology. People always want what they think they can't have. By pulling away, you create a scarcity effect, making him feel like your presence was a privilege he no longer has. As the days pass, he starts to feel your absence in ways he never expected. Maybe he hears a song that reminds him of you. Maybe he walks past a place where you once spent time together. Little things start triggering memories, and instead of feeling relief that you're gone, he feels a growing sense of emptiness. This is when he begins to realize how much he truly valued you. When you were always available, he had the luxury of taking his time, of assuming you'd always be there. But now that assumption is gone. The more he thinks about it, the more he realizes that he never really appreciated you the way he should have. This realization leads to a deep internal struggle. Part of him wants to act like nothing is wrong, to pretend he's unaffected. But another part of him can't ignore the growing feeling that he's made a mistake. He wonders if you're thinking about him too, or if you've already moved on. The idea that you could be slipping away for good ignites something inside him, whether it's fear, regret, or longing. It's powerful enough to keep you on his mind constantly. Now, his perception of you has changed. You're no longer someone he can predict. You're no longer someone he can assume will always be there. This uncertainty makes you even more intriguing. Your absence has created mystery, and mystery is one of the most powerful forces of attraction. He may have once felt comfortable, even complacent in your presence, but now he feels an undeniable urge to regain what he lost. He wants to know what you're thinking, what you're doing, and most importantly, whether he still has a place in your life. This is when he starts noticing everything he once overlooked. He remembers the way you laughed, the way you made him feel, the little things that made you special. These memories start to weigh on him, and the more he tries to push them away, the stronger they come back. Your absence has now turned into something he can't ignore. What once felt like a simple, casual connection has now become something he can't stop thinking about. And here's the most important part. When you pull away, you shift the power dynamic. You are no longer the one chasing, waiting, or hoping for his attention. Instead, you are the one creating distance, leaving him to wonder and question everything. This is why pulling away is so powerful. It forces him to confront his true feelings, to recognize what he had, and to decide whether he's willing to fight for it. When he finally reaches a breaking point, he will take action. He will reach out. When you distance yourself, something profound happens within him. At first, he may brush it off, convinced that it's just a phase. He tells himself that you'll reach out eventually, that this is temporary, and that there's nothing to worry about. But as more time passes, a shift occurs, and what was once a casual absence begins to feel like a void he can't ignore. Suddenly, he finds himself checking his phone more often, waiting for a message that never comes. He might not admit it to anyone, not even to himself, but deep down, a part of him is unsettled by the silence. Men often process emotions differently than women. While women may immediately recognize their feelings, men tend to suppress them until they become overwhelming. When you pull away, it doesn't always hit him right away. At first, he distracts himself. He goes out with friends, keeps busy, or convinces himself that he doesn't care. But the more he tries to ignore it, the stronger it becomes. It starts creeping into his thoughts at unexpected moments. He remembers a conversation you had, a joke you shared, or the way you used to look at him. The memories don't fade, they intensify. This is when he begins to wonder what went wrong. He replays past interactions, searching for clues. Was there a moment he didn't notice? Did he say something to push you away? Did you meet someone else? These questions consume his mind, leading him to overanalyze every little detail. The uncertainty eats away at him because for the first time, he realizes he doesn't have control over the situation. He was used to things being a certain way, you being there, your presence being consistent. Now that stability is gone and he's left feeling unsettled. As days turn into weeks, the impact of your absence grows stronger. He starts noticing things he took for granted. Maybe it's the way you always checked in on him, the way you listened, or how you supported him without hesitation. When you were around, he didn't think twice about these things, but now he's beginning to understand just how much they meant. This realization isn't just about missing you, it's about recognizing your value. And that's when regret begins to set in. Regret is a powerful force. It doesn't just make him miss you, it makes him question his own actions. Could he have done things differently? Should he have appreciated you more? These thoughts can be tormenting because they remind him that he had something special and now he may have lost it. And the worst part? He doesn't know if he can get it back. That uncertainty makes it even harder to move on. He might try to suppress these emotions by acting indifferent. Maybe he posts on social media trying to look like he's having the time of his life. Maybe he flirts with other people, hoping to fill the void. But none of it works. No matter how much he tries to distract himself, there's an undeniable truth he can't escape. Your absence has changed everything. As time passes, he starts to realize something even deeper. It's not just about missing you. It's about what your absence has revealed to him. He now understands that he was comfortable, maybe even complacent when you were around. He assumed you would always be there, that he had all the time in the world. But now, that illusion is shattered. He sees that nothing is guaranteed, that people can walk away, and that taking someone for granted comes with consequences. And you can't be the man that you need to be to explore all the room inside of you so you can find happiness. And here's the thing about men, they don't like to lose. Once he recognizes that he might have lost something truly valuable, the instinct to reclaim it kicks in. He might start testing the waters, sending a casual message, or finding excuses to see you. But the dynamic has changed. You are no longer the one waiting, hoping, or chasing. Now he is the one feeling the weight of uncertainty, wondering if he still has a place in your life. And that realization will stay with him long after you've walked away. When a man realizes he can't stop thinking about you after you've pulled away, a shift takes place inside him, one that he never expected. At first, he may not fully understand what's happening. He might tell himself that it's nothing, that it's just habit or familiarity making him think of you. But deep down, he knows it's more than that. Your absence isn't just noticeable. It's affecting him in ways he can't control. As much as he tries to push it aside, your presence lingers in his mind. He wakes up and instinctively expects a message from you. He scrolls through his phone, debating whether to reach out, but his pride stops him. He tries to stay busy, to distract himself with work, friends, or even other people. But no matter what he does, his thoughts keep returning to you. It's as if your energy still surrounds him, even though you're no longer there. Men often don't realize the value of a woman's presence until it's gone. When you were around, he didn't have to question anything. You were there, and that was enough. But now, your silence has created a void, and it's forcing him to confront emotions he never expected. He remembers the way you used to care for him, the little things you did that made him feel important. Maybe it was the way you laughed at his jokes, the way you always checked in, or the way you believed in him when no one else did. At the time, he might have brushed it off, assuming it was just normal. But now, with that warmth missing from his life, he starts to see things differently. And here's the truth. When a man starts to feel your absence deeply, it's not just about missing you. It's about what your absence reveals to him about himself. He starts questioning his own actions. Did he take you for granted? Did he push you away without realizing it? Did he assume you would always be there no matter what? These questions haunt him because for the first time, he realizes he might have made a mistake. He might not admit it out loud, but inside he feels a sense of regret. Regret for not appreciating you the way he should have. Regret for not expressing his feelings when he had the chance. Regret for assuming that he could always come back whenever he wanted. And that regret grows stronger each day that you remain distant. As time goes on, his need to reconnect with you intensifies. He starts looking for signs, hoping you'll post something that gives him an excuse to reach out, wondering if you still think about him the way he thinks about you. He might even test the waters, sending a random message or reacting to your posts, just to see how you respond. But what he doesn't realize is that the power dynamic has shifted. When you pulled away, you regained control. You are no longer the one seeking validation or reassurance. Now he is the one feeling the uncertainty. And that uncertainty eats at him. He starts to wonder if you've moved on, if you found someone else, or if you simply decided that he wasn't worth your time anymore. That thought alone drives him crazy. He was comfortable when he knew where he stood with you, but now he's in unfamiliar territory, and it makes him anxious in a way he never expected. Men don't like to feel out of control, especially when it comes to relationships. When you were in his life, he had a sense of security, whether he admitted it or not. But now that you've pulled away, he's forced to sit with the reality that he doesn't have access to you anymore. And that realization is powerful. It makes him see you differently. Not as someone who was just there, but as someone who had a genuine impact on his life. And that's the moment he starts to realize that he needs to make a decision. He can either ignore what he's feeling and risk losing you completely, or he can step up and acknowledge what you truly meant to him. Some men will let their pride stop them, unwilling to admit that they miss you, but others will recognize that your absence has changed them, and they'll be willing to do whatever it takes to get you back. In the end, your silence speaks louder than any words ever could. When you pulled away, you didn't just leave a space in his life, you left a lasting impression that he can't ignore. And no matter how much time passes, he will always remember the moment he realized that losing you was never part of the plan. When a man realizes that you've truly pulled away, his mind becomes a battlefield between his emotions and his pride. At first, he might try to act indifferent, convincing himself that he doesn't care, that he's better off without you. He might even tell himself that you'll come back eventually, that this is just a phase. But as time passes and you remain distant, something shifts inside him. It's no longer about whether he wants to reach out, it's about whether he can handle the idea of losing you completely. Men are wired to believe they have control over situations, especially when it comes to relationships. They assume that if they ever want to reconnect, they can. They believe that if they give it enough time, you'll miss them and come back on your own. But when that doesn't happen, when you remain silent and unavailable, it creates a level of discomfort they didn't anticipate. Suddenly, the control they thought they had is slipping away, and it forces them to confront emotions they've been trying to ignore. At first, he might try to suppress these emotions by focusing on distractions. He'll throw himself into work, hit the gym harder than ever, or surround himself with friends to keep his mind occupied. He might even seek attention from other women in an attempt to fill the void, but deep down, he knows none of it is working. The more he tries to escape the thought of you, the stronger it becomes. The harder he tries to replace what he lost, the more he realizes that not everyone is you. And that's when the regret starts creeping in. He begins replaying past conversations, wondering if he missed a sign that you were pulling away. He starts analyzing his actions, questioning whether he took you for granted, whether he was too dismissive, too arrogant, or too emotionally unavailable. It's no longer just about missing you, it's about realizing that he might have been the reason you left in the first place. This realization is unsettling because it forces him to acknowledge something most men avoid: vulnerability. Men are taught to be strong, to hide their emotions, to never admit weakness. But losing someone who genuinely mattered forces them to confront those emotions in ways they never expected. It's no longer just an inconvenience, it's a painful wake-up call. At this stage, he starts looking for ways to reconnect. He might send a casual message, hoping for a response. He might start watching your social media stories, liking old posts, or even mentioning you to mutual friends just to see if they'll bring up your name. But when you don't engage, when you maintain your silence, it drives him into a deeper state of reflection. He starts realizing that you're no longer the same person who once sought his validation. You've evolved, and that realization shakes him. The absence of your attention, the absence of your energy, forces him to recognize your worth in a way he never did before. He starts wondering if he ever truly appreciated what you brought into his life, the way you supported him, the way you cared, the way you made him feel like he was the most important person in the world. And now that it's gone, he understands that not everyone will love him the way you did. This is the moment where a man either steps up or stays stuck in his own pride. Some men will allow their ego to stop them from admitting what they feel. They'll tell themselves that reaching out makes them look weak, that apologizing or expressing their emotions is something they're not capable of. And those men, they will carry that regret with them for a long time. They will remember you in quiet moments, wondering what could have been if they had just humbled themselves enough to say, "I miss you." But other men, they will recognize that losing you is not an option they are willing to accept. They will put their pride aside and acknowledge what they feel. They will understand that a woman like you is rare and they won't risk letting you slip away without a fight. These are the men who will reach out, not with half-hearted attempts, but with genuine effort. They won't just say they miss you. They will show it through actions. And that's where the power of pulling away truly lies. It's not about playing games or manipulating emotions. It's about reclaiming your value and allowing a man to see what life looks like without you in it. It's about forcing him to acknowledge his feelings instead of running from them. And in that process, one of two things will happen. Either he will rise to the occasion and fight for you, or he will let his pride consume him and lose you forever. Either way, you win, because in choosing yourself and walking away from anything that doesn't serve you, you've already proven that you are the one in control.